All right. I think that everything is properly running. Oh, I gotta pop out the chat, otherwise I'm not gonna be able to see it. Boom. All right. That's pretty good. And that's good. And that's needs to be stretched down a bit. Yeah, there we go. All right. Scooch my chair a little closer. Hope everyone's doing well. Looks like there's been a whole bunch of chat already today, so that's good. What do we got here? I see Frankie Lee Bailey. I see Annie and what are the list of topics today? That's a good question. We do sort of play it fast and loose sometimes. Vegas is potentially one of the things, in that I'm going to the Las Vegas Open, so that's going to be interesting. Never been to Vegas before. What else have we got here? Rick Gearhart, good morning. Rick's pretty new. Rick and I know each other. He runs a group down in the southern part of the state called the Southeastern Wisconsin Battle Badgers, and they are a club, a demo club that teaches a bunch of different miniatures games, mostly stuff based off of Battlefront, the company that makes Flames of War and Team Yankee and things like that. So yeah, that kind of stuff. So welcome, Rick. What else have we got here? Let's see. Jesse Daniel. Wondering if Adam is still planning on going to Fire and Ice up in Manitowoc. Funny story. Yes, I am. But we have thought also about trying to get a booth at Fire and Ice for Game 4, for the app. And I've tried contacting them several different times and have heard nothing. The first several emails I sent bounced back, as in no such email. So I reached out to the guy who kind of runs stuff, because he and I are friends on Facebook, and I said, hey, this email's not working. And he's like, well, I cleared it out last night, so it should be fine. And I'm like, no, it didn't say it was full. It said that it doesn't exist. And then I tried again, and still nothing. Same deal. So then I sent an email to the regular coordinator at, Fire and Ice Convention, and I haven't heard anything back. So, we're willing to give them money to take a booth, and hopefully I can get a hold of them sooner versus later. No, Java, I do not want to do an update right now. Thanks, though. I appreciate that. You stupid Java. Yeah, so that's where that's at. I'll be there either way, probably, but we would like to have a booth if we could. So let's see here. What else have we got? We've got War Budgies and Aaron Thomas and Josh McCarthy, and painting a Mark I Dreadnought. Jesse says, for me, it's my drop fleet and drop zone stuff, as I need to get finished up enough to play with at Adepticon. Rick says, I'm building at the moment over at a buddy's place. Easier to bring glue and knives than paints. Yeah, no, I can go places to build. I can go to the local shop and build, but I can't go to the local shop and paint. It just doesn't work for me. It's too much stuff, and I don't know. Maybe I'm just fussy. Potato Joe, working on Walking Dead minis and 40K poster boys. Useful G, howdy folks. Hope everyone is doing well. For the most part, at least over here, I am. Hey, don't chew on that. Hey. Psst. Don't lick that. What are you doing? Hey, I've got a cat that's licking the electrical cords, because that's a smart thing to do. Yeah, mostly back. I would probably 95%, I think, back. My voice is still a bit lower than usual, I think, although it's a bit better today. And most of my leaking out of most of my orifices up on the head part, at least, is finished, except although this eye is a little watery right now for some reason. But for the most part, I lived through it, so that's good. What else? Right now, I'll probably pick up more UCM to end up giving demos at TMX. So that'd be cool. Yeah, I mean, I think I've played Drop Fleet I played a demo of Drop Fleet once at Valhalla 2 years ago. I have not played Drop Zone, but I think that there are some people who are playing it in Oshkosh, like a small little contingency, maybe 3 or 4 tops. So that's cool. Yeah, I think it would be great. I think it would be great for people to try it out, definitely, at something like at Tabletop Minions Expo. Christopher Swinsco. Hi all. Trying out methods for my flesh terrors. Fun. There's the Noob Painter. Howdy do. Giovanni. I'm working on some extra Tau units for an Escalation League starting tomorrow. Nice. We got VJ Morph from all the way from Australia. How am I feeling? Not too bad. Not too bad, like I said. What else have we got here? Josh says he had a good time with the Battle Badgers at TMX. Yes, the Battle Badgers were at TMX this year and ran. They brought their gorgeous Point to Hawk board from World War II for Flames of War, and ran games on that all weekend long. And then there was also some Elamine, I think, and some tanks, and also even some Malifaux too. So it's not just all that. So yeah. VJ Morph says at least Cat is only licking them, not chewing them. Well, chewing them usually comes next, but I hopefully nipped that in the bud to some degree. They make this stuff that you can spray on cables that's supposed to be like a bitter orange or a bitter apple that's supposed to make the cat not want to do that. One of the cats, he thinks that's a condiment. He thinks it's lovely. Yeah, that doesn't work out super hot. VJ Morph says I've spent way too much on new Mac power units. Yeah, I had to buy one for my laptop too because it got destroyed. So I had to buy I bought like a weird off-brand one, which was cheaper. I read someplace just recently that plug that you plug into your, let's say, Mac laptop has more computing power in it than the original Macintosh from 1984 had in it, which I think is kind of interesting. But yeah, definitely. John J. just picked up phone Bloodbound Battle Box. What a value. Cool. Rick Gearhart says we'll be at TMX again this year if Uncle Adam will have us. Absolutely. We're always looking for people to run stuff, and you guys obviously did crazy good last year, so there's that too, definitely. I'm going to be opening up announcements and all that shenanigans for TMX probably end of January. I just need to touch base again with the lady at the university and nail down exactly, like right now we've got the same room that we had last year. We're going to be expanding a bit into the next room, and then there's like a little like they just kind of unzip the wall there, and then there's like a little tiny extra part of room. It's maybe like the length, it's the same width of the room, but maybe only like, I don't know, maybe 15 feet longer. And we might try to do some classes in there or seminars or something. Like, last year Sam was like just sort of in the corner. We're going to try to put him in a separate room or something like that. And then determine if we need to open up into a room across the hall as well. So we'll see how that goes out. But I need to touch base with her. And now that the holidays and all that shenanigans are done, that should be good. Definitely. Paul Knox says, I've been painting War Machine Warjacks for the first time today. Going all right. Yeah. I've only ever done Khador Warjacks, and they're the old metal ones. So there was a lot of extra stuff you had to do to actually make the torso fit together. There was a lot of extra green stuff and things like that. So yeah. But I did enjoy painting them. I don't know. I kicked around the idea of trying to get back and do a couple of battle boxes now that the new 3rd edition came out, just for messing around and doing some stuff. And I reached out to Privateer, and they kind of were like, oh yeah, no, we'll send you some. And then they never did. So I haven't really. And like nobody much plays around here, sadly, that I know of. So yeah, that's kind of where that's at. But Lord knows, I have plenty of stuff to paint. I actually was just this morning at the shop, and I picked up something else to paint. This is called the Thermic Plasma Regulators. This is just a piece of terrain that is designed to go with the other sets, like the sets that came out when Shadow War came out. They're those kind of like raised kind of catwalk sort of industrial things. These are relatively new, I think. And my local shop finally, they've been out for like a month, but I kept telling the local shop, hey, can you get me some of those? And they're like, oh, yeah. And then never did. And then finally did. So, yeah, there's not much in there, but they're neat little devices. But yeah, I'm looking forward to those. And then also, I wanted to let you guys know about a new, so there's a new show that I'm going to be doing on the channel, and I've talked a little bit about it, but I think I've finally come up with the proper name. With the help a little bit of VJ Morph a while back. I was talking about basically a show where I would go on eBay, buy an old, beat-up, nasty-looking model, completely strip it down, redo it, repaint it, kind of like almost like This Old House, but for miniatures. That's kind of the plan. And I was trying to come up with a good name. And during, I think it was a live show, it was... VJ said it should be called Uncle Adam's Hot Mess, which I like, but I decided I think I'm going to call it Uncle Adam's Miniature Hot Mess, I think is what this new show is going to be called. I already have 2 candidates lined up, which I've purchased from eBay and are ready to go. And so I'm looking forward to starting that show pretty soon and getting that going. One of the benefits is that I'm going to be using this stuff, which I picked up at the dollar store also today on my morning errands, and this stuff is called LA's Totally Awesome, and I got it from Dollar Tree, and it was $1, and it is 32 fluid ounces for $1, which is pretty good. But when I did that video years ago about the pitfalls of stripping, I used Super Clean, which is the purple stuff, and I used Simple Green, which is the green stuff, and neither of them worked super well on that particular project in that video, if you've ever seen it. I had a lot of people in the comments who were like, you need to use this stuff from the dollar store. And I've seen other videos too talking about it. So I'm going to give this a try in the first show, in the first Uncle Adam's Hot Mess. So yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to trying to get those models back into some sort of useful kind of situation. One of them is a model for my Death Army for Age of Sigmar. He's like a vampire lord kind of dude. And the other one is some sort of corn dude, and I don't remember if he's for 40K or if I bought him quite some time ago. I was just happened to be flipping through like eBay and came across this model that was rough looking, and I was like, that guy would be a perfect candidate. But I don't remember if he's for corn Age of Sigmar or corn 40K. I mean, I guess I could tweak him either direction if I really wanted to, but yeah, so we'll see how that goes out. Let's see here. What do we got here? Josh McCarthy says, yay, dorm rooms. I'll remember to bring shower shoes this time. Yeah, I mean, it's staying upstairs during TMX in the dorm room kind of things it's super, it's really reasonable. It's like $45 a night or something. There's 2 twin beds in there, so you and somebody else were coming to the show. You could split the cost. It's pretty cheap. But yeah, I think that'd be kind of that's a good thing. But it is, yeah, it's not a fancy hotel. It's it's dorm rooms, so you got to go down the hall to the bathroom. Zombie Boy says, just multitasking between Shadespire Orcs, Reavers, and Steelhearts. Different stages, but taking a break for the day now. Potato Joe says, will there be a demo of Wreckage at TMX? 99% yes. I actually asked Matt about it a couple days ago. We were texting back and forth, and I was like, you're going to be able to... Because he wasn't able to make it to TMX last year because he and his girlfriend went to Iceland or whatever. Yeah, Iceland. Anyway, yeah, so they had this trip that they had planned, and it happened to be during the same weekend as TMX, and so, they went to Iceland, and it was cool. But this year they're not going to Iceland, luckily, so, yeah, he's gonna be there, probably at least him, if not him and Anton, and they'll have a booth and be running demos, and you'll be able to check out Wreckage. Wreckage, the new 2.0 book, I want to say is about to be released. I've got a link to a pre-release copy, which I was going to look at last weekend, and then I couldn't. I was sick. But yeah, that's coming very soon. So by that point, it'll be out and everything, and it'll be great. So definitely. Rick Gerhardt says, good name, provided you also do a follow-along episode with underarm deodorant land speeders. Yeah, I've been saving. I don't save the underarm deodorant cans. I thought about those because I thought it might be kind of fun just to make something like those old land speeders. Back in the day, before there were land speeder models in the White Dwarf, for those of you who are newer to the hobby, White Dwarf used to show you how to take a speed stick and put a bunch of stuff on it and then paint it up and make it into a land speeder because they didn't have land speeder models back then. Now, of course, they would never do that for the most part. But the type of deodorant that I get, like when you take the initial top off when you first open it, there's like a cover that goes over the top and it's got like a little handle and you pull it up and it kind of looks, to me, it almost looks like a parabolic, like a, I don't know, like a satellite dish or something. So I've been saving them and I throw them in this little drawer and I'm like, I could use these for something cool for terrain or something. And so there's that, but I haven't, I haven't planned on actually building any flying hover tanks or anything like that out of the deodorant, although it's not a bad idea. Josh McCarthy says that this stuff is fantastic. It's all he uses, so that's right there. That's an endorsement. We're glad to hear that. We got Kelly here. How long has it been on? Since about noon, so about 17 minutes or so. War Budgies asks if it's better than Simple Green. From what I've been told, everybody really raves about it, so I want to give it a try. I was always a super clean guy, the purple drank, but I definitely want to try this stuff and make sure that it works out well and gets the stuff off the models that I need. Yeah, definitely. Scott says I'd be careful with Totally Awesome. It can make certain plastics brittle. Okay, I'll keep track of that. I believe that the two models that I'm currently planning on stripping are metal. Like I said, one of them is he's the Vampire Lord or something like that model, where he like kind of looks like a guy, like a kind of a vampire head, but he's got like, I think he's in normal armor, but like he's got a sword in one hand and in his other arm is just a giant wing that he's like holding up, and it's this huge, like he's like half transformed into bat or whatever. And you can still get that model, but you can only get it in fine cast, and it's terrible. So this one I found in metal, which was really what I was looking for. But it's, looks like it was painted with somebody's thumbs. So, which is fine. And also there's a bunch of the paint worn off because it's probably been sitting around for a long time. So I'm going to try to fix it all up. Let me see here. I've tried everything but the Dettol that the UK uses. I have a bottle of Dettol at work that I ordered from Amazon finally, and I got it, and I was like, I'll have to try this stuff out. It's gonna be really interesting. And then I read a thing saying, hey, if you use it, don't ever use it in the house because it smells so bad that you'll want to die. So now I'm afraid to open it, frankly. But I do have that on. So yeah, it'll be great. Rick Gerhardt grew up in Iceland. Well, that's cool. I mean, my wife and I considered going to Iceland for our anniversary, our honeymoon, which is like your first anniversary. No, it's not, but you know what I'm saying. We were thinking about it, and then we didn't. We instead went to Spring Green, Wisconsin for our honeymoon, and went to House on the Rock and all that cool stuff. And it was a lot of fun. But anyway, so he had like. Matt had and his girlfriend had this like great flight package, and we're like, well, it's the only time we can go, and it happens to be during TMX, and I'm like, well, you should go to to Iceland. So yeah, but not doing it this year, so he should be at TMX and be able to give off, be able to do a bunch of demos and neat stuff like that. Hopefully, Wreckage will have those fancy new cars there, says Josh. Yeah, I agree. They look fantastic. They should by that point, I believe. Yeah, I did the Kickstarter on them, so I'm expecting to get a couple eventually soon too. We've got Mario Dongu. Hey, all from northwestern Indiana, sneaking this in while being really slow at work. I'm fine with it. Your boss may not, but I'm fine with it. VJ Morph's got a painting question. Painting some Tau. Nice smooth base coat, hit the model with a wash to get my recess shade, hit all the flat panels with a lighter color as before highlight, but can't get it smooth without blotches or streaks. Thinning with water is just resulting in more streaks and blotching. So if you painted it smooth, then you threw a wash over everything. That's tough with Tau. Yeah, like completely washing, because there's a lot of flat, I mean rounded, smooth surfaces, but unimpeded with skulls and crap like that all over them. It's sometimes difficult to throw wash over the entire towel, let's say devilfish, because then you can sort of, the panels themselves can get a little grungy. And so that you see some people then just try to put the stuff, just the wash, like they'll do what they call pin lining, and just try to get the wash to go into the actual like lines and the panel lines and stuff like that, and then not do it on the flat parts. But I don't know. That's a good question. I've not had that problem before though, where trying to go back and put it over. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming you're probably shaking your paint very well, the base color and all that kind of stuff. You're thinning it some, which you need to do probably. That's a good question. I don't know if anybody else has got any suggestions there too. Let me see here. There's been more chat than I've been able to keep up with. Zombie Boy asks, anyone heard about this tabletop game expo in London in September at Alexander Place? Apparently some companies from the US attending. The name sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't know. Is it wargaming and miniatures, or is it like all kinds of tabletop games, like board games and RPGs and stuff? Yeah, that's a good question. The Noob Painter says, any thoughts on how many and what types of classes Sam will be doing at TMX? He hasn't really. I haven't really talked to him about it yet. I mean, I know he's planning on being there. I don't know if he's got any plans on what types of classes or anything like that. I think it's not going to just be open-ended like it was before, where he just sits down and everybody just stands around and kind of looks at him. I think he's going to have maybe more specific stuff. I know he is running 3 or 4 events at Adepticon this year, seminars. I'm in one of them. I wanted to be in his first one because it was his first ever, but unfortunately it was scheduled during like my first or second event seminar, so I couldn't do that. But I will be. I am signed up. I was able to get in before they sold out, and they sold out in the first 2 or 3 hours after they opened up registration for Adepticon. But I was able to get into his second class, so I think he'll be a little bit further along on understanding class stuff and whatnot and all that jazz. Hopefully, at least. So, but yeah, that'll definitely be part of. I'll make sure that that'll be in the website and in the information that people can get when that time comes. So, definitely. Let's see here. Talking about cardboard bane blades. That's fun. VJ Morph says that Dettol doesn't smell that bad, but it is best if left in the garage. Yeah, I can see that. Let's see here. Rick Gerhardt's looking up flights to Reykjavik, so that's fun. Josh McCarthy, hanging out with Matt at cons is always a blast. Yeah, Matt's a good guy. I'm really super looking forward to seeing him at Adepticon. Sadly, that's kind of the next place. That's the only next event that I'll probably see him at, because I don't think he's planning on coming to Fire and Ice in Manitowoc. It's on Sunday. There's a good amount of miniatures because there's a big 40K tournament, but those people are all kind of stuck in the tournament during the thing, so it's not very. It's much more of a board gaming convention, but there is some miniatures and things like that. So it depends. Yeah. Kelly says, hey, hope you're feeling better. I mostly am. I've always been a simple green guy. I just used the Totally Awesome and had great results, but cheaper. Yeah, like I said, this is a dollar store, so this is a 32-ounce bottle for $1. So yeah, that's not a bad deal. Kelly says that we'll use either. It all depends on which kind of smells mood I am in. Yeah, I don't know what this smells like. I haven't opened it. It's got like a foil thing on top of it, so I'll probably wait a little bit. Frankie Lee says, is the wash the same paint system? I've had that problem mixing Liquitex inks and regular Citadel or Vallejo paints. That's a very good point there, VJ. If the washes, if the paint you're putting on the model is Citadel and the washes are Citadel, you would think they generally wouldn't do that. I haven't come across that before, but I have come across sometimes, like if the paints are like one brand and the washes are a different, or even if they're a different type. I mean, like if the washes you were using were oil, that would, well, first of all, from everything I understand about oil washes, if you do acrylic paint first and then decide to do an oil wash, you need to spray everything with a nice thick coat of like gloss before you do the oil. But you're probably not using oil, I'm assuming. I would assume you would have mentioned that. But, you know, I've heard there's really cool things you can do with oil washes, but you have to take tons of precautions. So, yeah. Let's see here. Dettol doesn't smell that bad, just has that generic antiseptic smell, unless the UK stuff is different. Yeah, I don't know, because this is evidently the UK stuff. Yeah, so that's a good point. Let me see here. Is the wash the same? Though I have found that Dettol can get the paint off the miniature fine, but much harder to remove from bases. Oh, interesting. Okay. VJ says, okay, so just try to recess shade only. With Tau, I have watched videos before plenty of times where people like, yeah, they try to do that. But then, like I said, if you're doing like a pin wash, more often than not, what you're doing is you're spraying everything the way you want to spray it, get it all cool. Then you're doing a gloss. Then you're doing a pin wash. Sometimes, like the best pin wash, from what I understand too, is also generally an oil. That may be beyond what you want to do, and I don't fault you for that at all. I've never done an oil wash or a pin wash like that. I've done pin washes with like normal acrylic wash, but it's a lot shorter runs. You know, like a pin wash is when you get some stuff in there and you basically touch it to the little gap that makes up the panels and stuff like that, and the, let's say, capillary action, because I'm no scientist, kind of sucks it along and it runs along those things. You have to be very careful and you have to be very patient, but you can make it work. But it works better if you've glossed everything, because then the material runs along, doesn't soak into the paint tooth as much because it's glossy, as far as I can tell. Like I said, I've never quite gotten that fancy, but I've watched plenty of videos from people who do. So, you know, I guess I got that going for me. Josh McCarthy talking about his wife's vinyl cutter will cut thin polystyrene sheet once they've converted to SVG. Either talking about making a cool, yeah. I've kicked around the idea of like I would love some sort of cut. Like I'd love a laser cutter, but they're expensive and stinky. But boy, that would be nice. Yeah. Kelly asks, anyone else caught the Gloomhaven bug? Funny story. So last year I went to this event in Madison, the ACD Games Day. ACD is a distributor, games distributor who sells to stores. And I went with a friend of mine who owns a store. I come along with him so that he doesn't go by himself. And yeah, so anyway, we're at this seminar, and to try to get you to go to the 8 o'clock in the morning seminars, they started having giveaways during the 8 a.m. seminars. So we were going to go to the seminar anyway. We were sitting there at this seminar, and each of the 8 o'clock seminars, they were giving away two things during every seminar. They were giving away a case of Star Wars Destiny, which was kind of hard to find, but these guys are distributors, so I guess they had some. And then the other thing they were giving away was a copy of Gloomhaven. Now, this is back in May. And I don't really know from board games much, but when they said, oh, and we're giving away a copy of Gloomhaven, you hear all these people in the audience go, ooh, and I was like, okay, all right, I'll take your word for it. And so we're sitting there, and my friend Kevin, who owns the game store here in town, he won the Destiny case, and I won the copy of Gloomhaven. That box is, I don't know, it's like 100 pounds. It's really crazy, crazy heavy. So it was sitting pretty much in our living room for quite some time. And I was like, do I want to open it? So I'm like, I should probably sell it. I could put it on eBay, because it was going for good on eBay. And then I was like, it's going to cost $50 just to ship this damn thing. I don't know. So long story short is I recently, like literally like 2 weeks ago, just sold it to one of the guys at work. So because he played it he's more of a board gamer, and he went to a thing and played it, and it was like, because he knew I had it, and then so he came back, he's like, hey, do you still have that copy of Gloomhaven? And I'm like, yeah. So I sold it to him for like $100. So that was cool. But yeah, I still don't really know much about it. I know it comes with a bunch of cool miniatures, and it's kind of a medieval sort of, fantasy thing and whatever. But yeah, I never did really open it. But it's heavy, so got that going for it. That's a heck one. Let me see. Josh McCarthy says, "Yeah, I want to take Sam's classes at Adepticon, but between yours and Dave Taylor's Kickstarter one, I was pushing it. Adepticon's always crazy. Yeah, this year my class times are better than they were 2 years ago, so I appreciate that quite a bit. Last year my class times were lousy. Like the worst one was like the second class, which was the one about like branding and marketing and all that kind of junk, was on Sunday afternoon during the Crystal Brush presentation, and I was like, that's not cool." This year, I've got one on Thursday, one on Friday, and they're in the afternoons, like after lunch, so they're not too early, so people aren't like hungover or still sleeping or whatever. So yeah, looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be great. First one, the one about the technical stuff, that one's been sold out for a while. Last I looked, which was maybe 2-3 weeks ago, the branding one out of 24 seats has got like 2 left, and it might be sold out now, but I don't know. So yeah, really looking forward to doing those seminars this year. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Excuse me. What else have we got? Let me see here. What we got? What's a good starter airbrush? VJ Morph asks. I would tell you probably I'd tell you Iowata Neo. If you've got the money, I'd tell you probably just to go straight to the Iowata Eclipse, the HPCS. That's my favorite. And it's not super crazy expensive, but it is a bit more expensive. The upside is if you buy the Iowata Neo, you use it for a while, and then you decide you really like airbrushing and you want to upgrade, you upgrade to something else, let's say like the Eclipse, you can use the Neo then for just varnishes, and then use the Eclipse for regular paints and pigments, or not pigments, but you know what I'm saying, like regular paints. That's not a bad way to go, because sometimes you don't want to like mix back and forth between the brushes. Like you don't want to like put in varnish into the Gear 1 brush and then switch over and then have to put in regular paint back in, and then it just takes a lot longer to clean out sometimes, like completely clean out. But with varnishes, it's not as bad. So yeah, that's the way to go. Mario says, "Kelly, my gaming group has had the Gloomhaven bug bad. We just played our 12th game last night." Wow, that's pretty cool. Rick Gearhart agrees with me. Pin washing is made easier with capillary action. Gloss varnish helps. See, I didn't think I was pulling that out of my backside as far as capillary action was concerned. Rick uses a Badger 105 for basing and priming, and a Sotar 2020, also a Badger brush, for the pretty bits. Torch? Hey, Torch is here. Torch Badger Patriot 105. Okay. VJ Morph says, the GW Duncan videos do a fair bit of selective recess washing, so I'll try to watch up a few more of those. Thanks, folks. Yeah, no, I think that's probably, especially with big, long panels, or not long, but like unimpeded panels. I think frankly, I think that's sometimes why Games Workshop puts so many skulls all over everything, because then it just makes it easier to paint. You don't have those big broken up, or not, completely unbroken spaces to work with. So yeah, I can see that. We've got a sad kitty somewhere. I don't know what he's... What? Carlson, what is the problem? Being noisy. Let me see here. VJ Morph is looking to see if it can find a Badger 105 local, and local to VJ Morph is Australia. It's a good question. I think I'm still friends with the president of Badger on my Facebook. His name is Ken. He's a good guy. I don't know if they sell... I'm sure that you could get something online. I just don't know if there's anything like local at a store that you could get for Badger. I don't know if there's any stockists, as they're known, over there for Badger, but there might be. Badger also does make compressors and all that stuff. Yeah. Like, I don't use an Iowata compressor. I use a Sparmax compressor. I got it at Hobby Lobby, and it's always worked quite well for me, and I like it quite a bit. So, Josh McCarthy, I hope to maybe teach classes next year at Adepticon, but the internet would have to be way better. Yeah, no, the internet's not awesome there, frankly. The guy who takes care of all of that stuff, his name is Damon Drescher, and he's like, I think I reached out 2 years ago. I reached out to them and said, hey, I'd be interested in teaching classes about YouTube. And they got back to me and they were like, okay. And then last year I was like, hey, I'd like to teach classes about YouTube again. And they were like, well, you did it last year. And I was like, oh, okay. And so now, to be fair, I didn't like last year or 2 years ago when I did it 2015 or 2016, whenever the heck it was. My classes, I think they were set for 20 people each, and I sold maybe 13 or 14 seats in the one about technical issues and the other one about like marketing and branding and strategy. I think I only sold like 8. The channel was a lot smaller and people were not as interested in finding out more about YouTube and stuff like that at the time. So I guess I get that. And I think that may have also been a reason why they were like, yeah, we're not super interested in having you back. But then this year, they reached out to me and said, hey, we'd like you to come back and teach some classes. So I was like, all right. And now both of those classes, like I said, are I think 24 seats. And the technical one's sold out in the first day or two. And the second one's almost sold out. So hopefully that will be better. And maybe they'll have me back every year. I don't know. Maybe it's just an every other year thing. I'm not quite sure how they run stuff, but I know it's Damon Drescher is the name of the guy who handles it. So you might see if you can actually reach out to him during this year's Adepticon and say, hey, and talk about 3D printing or whatever, or whatever you want to do there, Josh. So yeah, that might be the way to go. Torch says, I would love to go to Adepticon, but it is far from Cali. Yeah, it is. I mean, Chicago's kind of a hub, so it's not too difficult usually to fly into. But then, of course, technically the convention's in Schaumburg, so then you have to get from O'Hare to Schaumburg, which is not the end of the world, but it's a little bit of a different thing. Let's see. Useful G. Uncle Adam is connected. Not really. Why do I know Ken? Oh, because I'm a member of the Wargamers Consortium, which is just basically kind of an ad hoc group of different YouTube channels and whatever. And Badger was kind of a sponsor because the guy who runs Wargamers Consortium, whose name is Chung, he and Ken are friends. And so generally at like if Badger's going to be at a convention, a lot of time Chung is there helping to work in the booth and stuff like that, or some other WGC person is usually there helping to work in the booth and doing like demonstrations and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the only reason I really know Ken. Like I said, I've never actually I have a bunch of Steinelres primer of theirs, but I don't have any of their brushes. For whatever reason, the reason that I've always bought Iowata is because it's what they sell at Hobby Lobby, and I can get it for 40% off if I pay attention to my coupons. So yeah, that's really the only reason. I should probably try out Badger, but I've always been pretty happy with the stuff that I've had. So I mean, I've had the same 2 airbrushes now for when the heck did we buy this house? At least 7 years now. So yeah. I don't know. I think they're pretty good. What else have we got? I should see. Well, I was gonna say I should see if I should get Ken to come up and be a vendor at TMX, but I don't know. I mean, he lives like in the Chicago area, I think, and so it wouldn't be a big trip. But I mean, TMX is still pretty small. Like last year, we had 65 people, so. Every time a vendor comes and actually comes to the event, I always appreciate it, and it's frankly, I feel like they're doing me a favor. Like the 2 vendors last year, one came up from Milwaukee, which is not a very long drive, and obviously, like if you stay in the dorms, it's pretty cheap, so it's really not a huge outlay, and I don't charge very much for booth price. And that was the Broken Contract guys who do that post-apocalyptic game, and they're super nice. And then the other vendor was Gaddis Gaming, and Lee and his wife are great people, but they came from Detroit. That's a drive, and so super appreciative of that as well. And they showed off and were running demos and everything, and that was great. So I don't expect a lot of vendors to be clambering, at this point to come to the convention, because like maybe this year we'll have 100 people. You know what I mean? I don't know, but. So it'll grow, and I don't want it to grow crazy fast, obviously. It'll grow, but I don't expect vendors to be knocking down the door. Now, I'm hoping this year to have more what do you call it? Door prizes. I want to reach out to more vendors and stuff and say, hey, can you send us some stuff and we'll give you a logo in the whatever, and just some sort of sponsorship, thing, so that the people who come to the convention, we can't legally do a raffle per se because I'm not a not-for-profit. It's just a Wisconsin law. But if you, let's say, come for 2 days, you would get 2 tickets, which would be door prize tickets. That's totally legal. And then you could dump them into little glass bowls and say, I want to put my tickets in here, or I want to put a ticket here and a ticket there because I want to try to win these things. And then, we could do that. The old convention I used to run back in the day, which I stopped in 2012, OshCon, we did that at OshCon and it worked out nice. So I'm going to try to do that again a little bit here. What else have we got? Looks like we've got somebody else here now. Kieran Byrne, fashionably late. Morning, everyone. Excellent. What am I getting? I'm getting a high CPU usage. No, it's Java's being a jerk again. And I'm going to close that. Maybe we'll see if that helps. All right. Adam, what do you think is the possibility of Star Wars Legion being the grab bag at Adepticon? Well, honestly, I thought about it. I almost thought it was a foregone conclusion because last year, they dropped Rune Wars. If you had the swag bag, so okay, it used to be you always got a swag bag. It just you only got the good one if you were in the first 1,000 people or whatever. And then 2 years ago, or last year or whatever, they decided, look, if you just want to buy a ticket and you don't want the dumb swag bag, we'll sell that to you now. And it's like $30 or $35. And you're like, awesome, I got a ticket, I can go to events and do all my stuff, and I don't have to get this bag. They're like, if you want the swag bag, it's like $50 or $55. And I signed up just for the regular, no swag bag. Because in the past, it's always been a bunch of stuff. And you're like, oh, this is sort of cool, whatever. And then there's usually something from Privateer in there. And you're like, oh, great. But that was about it. Well, then, so this is the first year last year that I didn't sign up for the swag bag, and I got there, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you get the swag bag, you get all this other regular stuff, plus also this copy of Rune Wars." And I was like, "Well, that's a $100 game that's not out yet." So then you could pay once you got there, and then get the swag bag anyway. But so I just kind of assumed that Fantasy Flight was going to do the same thing this year because I was like, oh, well, they'll probably give out Legion because they want to prime that pump and get people super excited about it. And it won't be out yet and all this and that and the other thing. And then I just found out recently that it's supposed to be coming out in February. So now I'm not 100% sure if they're going to drop it or not as part of the swag bag. They probably still might, but I don't know that for sure. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not super... I know it makes me a bad person. I'm really not interested in Star Wars Legion. Like I said, I watched it played at at Gen Con, and I kind of went like, that's I don't know, just something about it I don't like. A couple of some things about it I think really that I don't like. It's not just one thing. It's like maybe a amalgamation of things, and that's sort of problematic right now. But so I'm just not super interested. But I know a lot of people are, so that's cool. I'm sure that there's going to be... And the thing is, because it's coming out in February, I believe they've got events. I don't know if there's a tournament or not, but there might be a tournament already, set up for it for Adepticon, where they expect you to have your stuff painted and all that jazz and or whatever. So that's cool. It'll be interesting to see what those look like and check that out. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure yet. Oh, what have we got here? There's been a little bit more. Adam, what do you think of the... Okay. Alluding to comment on Patreon, I was disappointed that GW doesn't allow Shadespire to be played in store. Only 40k and Age of Sigmar. But I suppose it's all about selling armies and scenery in the store. See, I'm pretty surprised by that. I mean, we don't have any 40k stores anywhere near where I live. It's like 100 miles at least for me to get to a 40k store. Or a Games Workshop store. But I'm really surprised that they would say, no, you can't play Shadespire in the store. That sounds kind of dumb, because they're pushing Shadespire pretty hard, and it doesn't take up much space. So, that's very weird. That might just be like a weird... I mean, maybe it's across the board and all the managers have been told that, or that could just be a manager who's maybe being a dick. I don't know. That's just... I'm really surprised by that, because they're pushing Shadespire hard. There's going to be a big Shadespire tournament at the Las Vegas Open next week, and there's going to be a big Shadespire tournament or two, I think, at Adepticon. So they want to push that, definitely. Jesse Daniel says, with the way it sounded at the Adepticon Talks video. Yeah, I started to watch that Adepticon Talks video on Beasts of War. I was watching Dawn and Gianna a little bit, and they started talking to the guy from Fantasy Flight, and then I fell asleep. Admittedly, it was late at night, and I was on the couch, so I didn't catch exactly what was going on. But I listened to the women talk and talk about upcoming Adepticon and all that stuff and everything. And as I like both of them, I've been friends with them for a while, and yeah, and then they started talking to that guy with the Fantasy Flight shirt on and everything, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, and then I fell asleep. So I don't know exactly what was said specifically, but it wouldn't surprise me, I guess. I wouldn't say it's a foregone conclusion, because it felt to me like the reason they did it last year for Rune Wars was because it wasn't out yet in stores, so it was going to generate a lot of buzz. But the fact that it's already in stores, or it will be allegedly already in stores, unless they've slipped the date. I haven't heard. Last I heard that the date was supposed to be February, so I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But yeah. Let me see here. What do we got here? Rick Gearhart says, want the battle badges to approach Battlefront on your behalf in regards to a TMX door prize. Technically, I think I still have some door prizes that you gave me last year when we weren't doing door prizes yet. So I do still have those in a plastic tub in my basement, Rick. So let me talk to you about that separately offline, but maybe. I know that I've got... You gave me some stuff from Dust, I think, and some other stuff. But yeah, I just came across it in the plastic tub downstairs recently. Yeah. Useful G says, Adam, the poll seems to be pretty evenly spread. Any plans for other content apart from Hot Mess? So yeah, one of the new shows is going to be the Uncle Adam's Miniature Hot Mess, and then the other one I think is going to be basically like what do you call it? I think I'm calling them like hobby progress vlogs or something like that, where they'll just be, and none of these will be on Fridays, I don't think. I'm not sure about the Miniature Hot Mess. The hobby progress vlogs will definitely not be Friday videos. They'll be maybe like Monday or Tuesday videos or something like that. And those will be videos about the hobby progress ones will be about like, hey, I'm like the first one, my plan on the first one is the orcs for Shadespire. So I bought the box for orcs for Shadespire. There's 4 orcs in that box, and I have built them. I built them just before I got sick. So I'm going to start off and be like, look, here's the orcs, I built them, blah, 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 and then talk about my plans for them. It'll be a short video, and then I'll come back in a couple of weeks and be like, okay, here's where I am right now, and blah, 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 and then like that third video, and like, and here they're done. And that'll be kind of the cadence that will work generally for that show. And then, you know, maybe a month goes by, or maybe a little bit less. Again, this will not be a standard every Monday sort of a thing. It'll happen from time to time, and then, you know, maybe I'll have like a 2-episode one for some special thing, or I'll have a big 4-episode one for something longer. I don't know. But it's just kind of a thing that I want to do. I like the concept to some degree of vlogs because they're just easier to shoot, but an actual regular vlog of me going around my merry business on any given day, people don't they don't care generally, which is fine. So yeah, that's definitely the case. Those are the 2 shows that I've got planned really this year for something different as far as that's concerned. Sam and I are planning to shoot another series of videos. I need to figure out how to make them. I need to figure out the focus issue. That made me very unhappy. In like a couple of the videos worked great, and then a couple of them just terrible focus. It's all based off of, so you can see in the video when you're looking at Sam that I've got a camera like right here over his shoulder, and it's got a macro lens on it. And a bunch of people are like, well, just add more depth of field and then it'll be in more focus. Well, sure, yeah, I can do that. But then I have to put a lot more light on the models so that I can do that. It's a photographic principle. I have to close the aperture down to make the depth of field get longer, and then when you close the aperture down, you let in less light, so now everything's too dark. So now you have to add more light, and you're constantly always having to shift things in photography. Well, if I add in a whole bunch of light right here so that it lights up the model, that light is going to also hit Sam in the face, and it's going to look like he's staring at, like, I don't know, the Ark of the Covenant in that shot because there's going to be all this light hitting him from below. And so I'm trying to figure out how to fix that issue. I'm also kicking around the idea of trying to shoot the camera out of frame from above, pointing down. I don't know. He has a monitor he can see. So I think it's just that he's not used to... One thing that could really fix this would be if he would just look at the monitor like if he would just get into the... And it's difficult to do because he's not used to doing it. I'm not blaming Sam in any way. But if I could figure out a way, like, I don't know, put up a big sign that says, before you touch paint to, or, brush to model, look at the monitor to make sure that, A, you're centered in the monitor. Because if you're centered in the monitor, you'll be in focus. You'll notice in a lot of the shots, the model was, like, over here. Well, if it was over here and, like, here, it was in focus. But if it was here, it wasn't. So it was part of, it's difficult for him and for anyone to hold the model in the right place so that the camera can see it properly, but he can see it properly. We can't put the camera on his face because it's too big. Not his face, the camera. His face is normal sized. But it's just, I'm still trying to crack that nut. And the problem is I can't see the monitor while we're shooting to say to him, oh, hey, can you redo that because you were totally out of focus in this. So I got to try to figure out how to crack that nut too. So yeah, it's a couple of those videos worked great and a couple of them were lousy. And people let me know in the comments, which, you're going to get. So we're going to try to fix that again. Like I said, probably in March is when we're looking at for that. Maybe, well, the only thing is that late March is Adepticon and early March is GAMA, which is the Game Manufacturers Association or something. And there's a good chance that I'll be going to GAMA for work because GAMA it's the Game Manufacturers Association. They do it in Reno, Nevada, is where they have the convention every year. And the booths are basically all game manufacturers and stuff like that. And the people walking around are all stores. There's like 700 to 800 stores that show up to this event. And so for Game 4, we want to be there saying, look, here's Game 4, here's the app, blah, blah, all that kind of stuff. Well, we're number one on the waiting list, evidently, we've been told. So as soon as someone drops out, which they say always 4 to 5 people drop out at some point, we're going to be like, yep. And then so finding the time in March might be a little difficult, but really it just takes like an afternoon or a long afternoon. So hopefully we can find like a Saturday or Sunday and just make it happen. But I'd like to have those done before I get to Adepticon. That'd be great. They may not be out necessarily. Well, if I really play my cards right, if I could shoot one before Adepticon, edit it, and actually have it play while I'm at Adepticon, that would be kind of cool. Anyway, that's a lot of... Anyway, that's just me talking. All right, so where are we at here? Let me see. We were talking Adam's polled. Okay, so that was answering Useful G's question about the new content and things like that, and I answered a couple other questions in there because I'm a rambler. What do we do here? Let me see. Okay, so I'm not sure if there's a difference between Games Workshop stores and Warhammer stores. I mean, they're owned by the same company. It's the same. It's from what I understand, it's a marketing thing. But yeah, it's a good question whether there's any other differences there between Warhammer stores and Games Workshop stores. I mean, I guess I could see maybe that. Well, no, because technically Shadespire is called Warhammer Underworld's Shadespire, so it is part of the Warhammer universe. So yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. Noob Painter. It's by Fantasy Flight, so I tend to shy away from it just for that. Their board games are just too monstrous and monotonous. Also, not super into Star Wars. Just talking about Star Wars Legions. You know, I do sometimes feel as if, and again, I feel like a terrible person for saying this, I feel as if I've hit peak Star Wars. You know what I mean? I've just, like, I'll go see the movies and whatnot, mostly, but I don't need any more Star Wars merchandise. I don't currently, we don't have any porgs here in the house, so that's good. We have cats that are like porgs, but wilier. I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. I can. That's another thing for me too, is that I'm like, you know what? Like I was at the shop today, and I was looking at a bunch of there's the three factions for X-Wing. There's the good guys, the rebels. There's the bad guys, the Imperial. And you can flip those back and forth however you want, depending on your point of view. But then there's the scum and villainy faction, who are kind of just like everybody else. And there's like 4 ships in that faction that are just super cool, that to me do not look like iconic Star Wars ships at all. Like, I've never seen them before. And I'm just like, these would be really cool to put into a game where you played like a different, like just like a spaceship game that you made up, and like these are cool spaceships that you could then use there. These are just like great models, but you don't have to play X-Wing. Not that X-Wing's a bad game, but I'm just like, if you just wanted to, I always have this idea in my head that I want to build a cool starship game. I used to, back in the long, long days ago, I used to play the FASA Star Trek Tactical Combat Simulator. So you were driving around like Enterprises and Klingon D-class or D7 class, whatever, cruisers and stuff like that. And it was a lot of paperwork. You had an 8.5 by 11 that you would turn into landscape, and then you had shields and you had to mark off. It was a little almost BattleTech-ish in that you had lots of little boxes and checks, and you were, managing power and cool stuff like that, which for some reason at the time I was super into. And sometimes there's just a nostalgic part of me that's like, it'd be kind of cool to have a game like that again. But like, nobody really makes any of that except for, Starfleet Battles still does. But like, I watched a Starfleet Battles game just recently at a small little convention that happened up here in Appleton, the very beginning of January, called TundraCon. And it reminded me why I don't particularly like Starfleet Battles. So I don't know. Anyway, my point is that I think I'm kind of over putting Star Wars on something and making me instantly want to buy it. So that's one of the reasons why I also have not just been like, oh yeah, I'm all in on Legion. And I'm like, nah, I've got plenty of other games, please. And I don't like that bendy ruler. It really annoys me. So if you've seen any gameplay for Legion, you don't use a normal tape measure to move your guys around. They give you this weird hinged plastic ruler that's like proprietary, along with all the proprietary dice. And I'm like, no thanks, I'm good, thanks. Excuse me. Still a bit phlegmy. Rick Gerhardt says we play Shadespire at the GW in Milwaukee, so that's good. And Anian, I'm still pronouncing that wrong, I'm sorry. I went to the GW store in Vancouver and they had a copy set out to play. Yeah, it seems odd if they were like, nope, sorry, you can't play Shadespire in the store. I don't know, that's just weird. That doesn't seem like a thing that they would want you to do, or I think that does seem like a thing they would want you to do, play it in the store. It generally sells more copies. Zombie Boy says he was at a Nottingham meeting. Maybe he was talking out of his shade glass. Nice. Kelly asks, hey, do you play specific games on specific nights of the week, or is it random draw? I paint far more than I play. So yeah, I don't have any specific night of the week right now where I get together and play anything specifically. Lately, I'm more likely to play on a Sunday afternoon. Once things calm down a little bit, I'm sure I'll be playing a little bit more Shadespire with my friend Jason at work. And we'll be playing either on Sundays. We may just start playing at work. I mean, it doesn't take that long. We play during lunch, There's that too. He is painting up... we'll probably start playing Blood Bowl at work too a little bit too. He's painted up his orc team, I think, and I think he's just got to put on the numbers, and then he's done. But with the release of Game 4, we've been super busy in that avenue, and then now he's got a family, death in the family that happened like a couple days ago, and so he's got to go back home to Indiana, and so because I thought, well, maybe we'll play some either Age of Sigmar or Shadespire this weekend, but now he's going to be out of town, so that's not going to work out. So it's kind of one of those deals. I would love to maybe get... I'd love to maybe get like a Tuesday or Wednesday night thing going on in town of people playing Shadespire. If that's going to happen, I'm going to have to take the bull by the horns and make it go, which I'm fine with. I just haven't really gotten that far yet. I kind of want to get my other armies painted up first, so I got to get my orcs done and then my skeletons. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I haven't done specific game nights in a long time. We used to get together at this, before there were any game shops in Oshkosh, there was a comic shop that sold games. And this is back when the Star Wars miniatures game from Wizards of the Coast was out. It was a random, like kind of like HeroClix type game, except for no clicking, but they were pre-painted like rubbery miniatures like HeroClix, and random pack. We used to do that weekly and play that game quite a bit. I did that for years, but yeah, I haven't done anything like that, quite like that in quite some time. Zombie Boy says, just finished the Orc Leader today. First time I painted yellow armor. Never again. Yeah, I know with my Orcs, I'm definitely not planning on doing the yellow armor scheme. I'm going to do either a metal armor scheme that's very dirty, because they're Orcs, so they're not into being clean, or I'm going to do the metal armor, but like they've blackwashed it, like they've tried to paint it black and then scraped a whole bunch of it off just through just wear and tear. So I've seen that look before too. I'm going to do one of those two looks, I think, with those guys. But I'm looking forward to painting them. I've never painted Orcs before, so it'll be interesting to see. VJ Morph says, yeah, the focus on the glowing eyes video with Sam was a bit fuzzy. Oh, it was very fuzzy, and it made me sad. There was, if there was some way I could have fixed it, I would have absolutely, like if it would have taken 20 times longer to render, I still would have, but there was nothing I could do. I did add sharpening and a whole bunch of stuff, and it was a bummer. Luckily, he does explain things pretty well as he's doing it, and so if you pay attention to what he's saying, like a lot of information can still be gleaned from it. Like actually looking and seeing, oh, I see, he touched the nose with the brush. I mean, like really, to be perfectly honest, a lot of the actual visuals are not super helpful because he's explaining more concepts and then just as he's doing it. But people do like to see that stuff. So there's that. What do we got here? I prefer to bring it up here in person than mention it in the comments. Too many people dogpile on YouTube comments. Yeah, no, it was a bummer, but it is what it is. GoPro on the end of the brush with fixed focus. See, the thing is it is fixed focus. That's part of the reason. If I would have had it or autofocus, then the autofocus has a tendency to search back and forth a lot, and so like if he was putting his hands back in the right spot, we had already pre-focused and everything would have been fine. And that's why in some of the videos, because they were all filmed at the same time on the same day, some of the videos he was a lot more in focus, but in other ones, I think especially the later ones, I think he got out of the zone a little bit, and so he'd be, he's trying to paint it a little closer to his face, and he's not paying attention to the fact that it's not in the monitor or it's not in the right spot in the monitor, so it's not in focus. So that's where that was coming from. So yeah. Jesse Daniels says, sweet for you to go to Gamma. Yeah, that would be kind of fun. I've never been to Reno either, so I mean, heck, I've never been to Vegas, so going to Vegas next week is going to be also interesting. Adam, have you managed to look over your copy of Test of Honor yet? I've been playing a while and be interested in your thoughts. I have not gotten a chance to play it or anything like that. I have opened the box and looked at the models. They look pretty cool. I am excuse me. I am working with a friend of mine who is another commission painter and is starting a small studio, and he reached out to me and he's like, I need a name for my studio and a logo, and you're sort of smart with that stuff. You should help me out. And I said, oh, okay. I'm like, I have a whole bunch of Japanese fellas that I need painted, so maybe that's how we do a trade on this. And he's like, oh, okay. And so that's the progress that we're at right now. So he's going to paint those guys up for me so that I can do some stuff with them, and that'll be kind of cool. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to try to actually build some small little pieces of terrain to make it work with that. So we'll see how that goes too. Yeah. But I'm looking forward to it. Definitely. Let's see. What does anyone think of the Custodes release? And I'm probably pronouncing that improperly too. I always have been. Yeah, I've got no interest in the excuse me, in that particular release. Yeah, excuse me. Sorry. Maybe talking too long is throwing me off here. Or should have had tea or coffee instead of soda. I gotta be honest, I'm a little amazed. Well, I'm not. I'm partially amazed that they didn't release, I don't know, Necrons and Orcs before they released some of these extra, dudes. Like the guys who just guard the Emperor. Like, do I need those? I mean, they're very pretty looking models, don't get me wrong, super fancy. But the Necron guys and the Orc guys are like, seriously, any day now. You could just release my codex, that would be awesome. So yeah, I don't know. VJ Morph says, seems like the GW had a lot of leftover Stormcast gold spray paint they wanted to sell. Well, that may be the case. That's true. Josh McCarthy says, I've been working on the Blood Bowl skill rings for a customer. Oh, those are kind of cool. I like all the little extra bits that come in Blood Bowl. All those weird little tokens and extra junk. They're fun. Yeah. Potato Joe says, Shadespire and Blood Bowl bat wraps, ? Well, okay, so here's the deal. So just before I got really sick, like I had stayed home on Friday and was kind of sick, and I was pretty sick, but I woke up on Saturday morning and felt a bit better. And I had an appointment at 10 a.m. with a friend of mine and my wife's, and he owns a coffee shop here in town, and I had reached out to him quite some time ago because he has studios upstairs that are like artists and stuff up there. And I said, if you ever get any empty studios upstairs, let me know. I'd like to take a look. So he had reached out to me previous and said, hey, I got an empty studio. Do you want to come look at it? And we had set up for Saturday. And so I got up and I was like, I think I can make it out there. I feel okay. And I did. And then I felt worse afterwards. But whatever. I still got to go and look at the studio. So it looks like I'm going to have a new studio come March. So that will be kind of cool, I'm hoping. And the upside is that it will lead most likely to bat reps sooner versus later because I won't have to completely reconfigure and clean up the whole basement. I'll just be able to set up. I have a folding 6 foot by 4 foot table. There's a company out there that makes a folding table that you can carry around, designed for wargaming. It's 4 foot by 6 foot. I can't think of the name of it. I ordered one. I found their company online and I ordered one a while back. It was like $190 plus, including shipping, and it was pretty good. And they shipped it real quick. And I mean, it's not super sturdy. I don't know if I would lay on it because I'm a big guy, but it's pretty nice. And so that studio is going to be the new kind of place where I'm going to, at the very least, do bat wraps, probably also do my normal Friday videos. I think the vloggy ones will probably be a little bit still more in the basement because that's where all my painting junk is. But that's coming soon. You guys are kind of the first hearing about this. So I'm going to have that studio. One of the benefits then is that I'll be able to invite people to the studio to do bat wraps, and it'll be easier than, say, inviting them to my house. So there's that too. Anyway, long story short is that's coming soon. So that'll help with battle reports. I have a suspicion that probably Shadespire might be one of the earlier ones. So that might be kind of cool too. Might even before the new studio, might try to do a Shadespire bat rep. I don't know, maybe do one at work, me and Jason, and then we'll make a Shadespire bat rep / also Game 4 thing. I don't know, we'll figure something out, but that's kind of the trick where we're at right now. So yeah, the studio is going to be kind of cool. There's like a little bit of exposed brick, and there's like a window, and it's just going to be, I think, it's a nicer place. It's kind of like 2 rooms, but one of them's almost like a room and a half. It's going to come with a big old metal office desk, just because he's like, can that stay there? Because it's really heavy. I'm like, yeah, no, I could use a desk. That's great. So yeah, it'll be cool. I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping that the noise is not too much of a trouble. That's the only concern is sound. But I'll figure it out. So yes, definitely. Let's see here. Frankie Lee Bailey says I'm painting up some super dark black orcs because I used to play Chaos Dwarves, and then with red armor, null and oil, red shade, need to do edge highlights still. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. I could see that. I'm sure I speak for most of us when we say we appreciate your efforts and Sam's for making those videos. Whatever the imperfections, are still really helpful. I hope so. I mean, they don't get tons of views, at least not initially. Over time, they have a tendency to get views, but up front, like, there's a lot of people I think that come to the channel that don't really care a ton about painting. They just like other parts of it maybe or whatever, and so they see, oh, it's a painting video. I'm not going to watch that, which is fine. But then over time, like they don't go out of style. Like the one about how to paint power swords, that's still just as true now as it was 3 years ago or whatever when we filmed it. So that's what's known as like an evergreen video. Whereas if I make a video about some new game that just came out, nobody cares in 3 years because that game's been out for 3 years and has already gone out of business or whatever. You know what I mean? So that's why I have a tendency to not do a lot of reviews and like new releases and all that kind of junk, because those videos have got a real short half-life, and so that's why I kind of do the stuff that goes longer. It just makes more sense. Let me see what else we got here. I'm afraid I'm on dinner duty, so I gotta get going. Glad you're starting to feel a little bit better. Ciao. Well, we'll see you later, Zombie Boy. Yeah, definitely. I'm glad I'm starting to feel a bit better as well. Frankie Lee Bailey says, Necrons and Orcs are guaranteed sales, though. Custodians would be a new branch for profits. Just business, in my opinion. Yeah, you're very possibly true. That's very possibly true. Yeah. Useful G. Tales from the Tabletop confirmed. To be fair, when you guys were asking about shows before, I would like to do some narrative stuff again this year, too. And if you haven't watched the 2 previous that I've done, there's 2 episodes back in the backlog called Tales from the Tabletop Minions. There's episode 1 and episode 2, I think. The first one is about, it's the one where we're playing a game and then I get a text and then my opponent's angry with me and then he gets a text and then we're both texting and then we forget whose turn it is. And the other one's the one about the rules lawyer. And so, yeah, so I would like to do some more narrative type stuff this year again. Just slip them in here once in a while. I was thinking actually in the car today if there was a way to do a really short narrative video and put it up, shoot something at Adepticon, maybe with a couple other YouTubers or whatever, and put something together real quick. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure. We'll see how it goes. I've got plans for Adepticon. Like last year at Adepticon, I made that video that turned out real well of asking all the pro painters all the questions that newer painters would be interested in. And I want to make something like that again this year, but just not do the same thing again. So I'm trying to come up with that proper kind of idea. So because that worked out well, you know, and it wasn't terrible to shoot because I could kind of go around and shoot and just ask a bunch of questions and be done with it. It was a little bit of a pain to edit, but again, that's not that big of a deal. The more kind of like interviewee ones in the hotel room are a little bit of a pain to set up, but once I've got the stuff set up, if I can shoot 2 or 3 of them, then it saves the time. So we'll see how it goes. Bunch of congrats on the studio space. Yeah, it'll be cool. I'm looking forward to it. Well, let me see here. What else have we got? Yeah, leave the news videos to Mini Wargaming. See, they generally just do bat reps. I mean, really, the news videos that I see, for the most part, are what's his name there? Beasts of War. Yeah, Beasts of War is a lot about like, here's the new stuff that's coming out and check it out. Mini Wargaming, at least in my mind, is generally about, look, like here's bat reps and that kind of fun stuff. They have started talking, I've been noticing they've been talking more about other products lately. Like they've started talking about like, they've done a couple of bat reps for, what the heck is that game? Ethereum? I know they've done some stuff for them. They've done a couple other things. So they're starting to branch out a little bit. Like they used to do bat reps for all kinds of stuff at Mini Wargaming. And then they started looking really at their numbers and they said, the only bat reps people watch are the Games Workshop ones. So that's when they got rid of, they did the video, said, look, we're not going to do bat reps anymore for Privateer Press, X-Wing, or any of these other things. We're just going to do Games Workshop stuff. And they did that for about a year or so, and then all of a sudden they were like, well, maybe we should spread back out a little bit again. So yeah, it's interesting. You know, when you're that big, you have to look, I think, a lot more closely at the numbers. You have to look a lot more closely at like, okay, well, what are people looking at? What are they actually watching? You know, we think that this is popular. As it turns out, the views do not actually show that to be true or whatever. I mean, I do some of that as obviously myself as well. I have my own kind of KPI, key performance index numbers that I kind of keep in my head. Like my video goes live in the morning on Friday morning before I get up, and then when I get up, I look and see what the numbers are at. How many views have I got? And then I kind of go, oh well, that's not as many as I would have liked at this time, so maybe it's not taken off, or it's more than I thought, or whatever. And so I've got that, and then I kind of also gauge it by like, well, how many views do I have by lunch on Friday, and then like how many views by the time I get up the next day on Saturday, and like kind of see where that's going. But things have been good. I just passed 71,000 subscribers. I'm doing well for that. I don't know that I'll hit 100,000 this year. I might. If I keep numbers up, it's a slim chance by the very end of the year I might hit 100,000, but it's more likely going to happen in 2019, unless something crazy goes on this summer. Like this last summer for me, 2017 summer was crackers. Like right now, here's behind the curtain. It'll be a hoot. Right now, I am getting refresh. 2,000 in the last 28 days. I've gotten 2,751 subscribers. Okay, that's in the last 28 days. That number is a little higher than usual. That number for me, for the most part, is right around 2,200 usually. But this summer, there were 28-day periods where I was hitting 3,500 in a 28-day period. 3,500 subscribers, because this summer was crazy. If you look at my analytics, like on Social Blade or one of those places, you'll see there was just this huge hump this summer, and that was really interesting. And so that was great. But when it comes back down, if you're getting 3,500 new subscribers every month, then hitting 100,000 from where I am now would be not so bad. It would be easy. But at maybe 2,500, well, then you're getting 10,000 every 4 months, and so it's 4 months and 4 months. And yeah, can I pull it? Could I? Yeah, maybe. So it's a possibility that I might hit 100,000 by the end of the year, but it might be sometime early 2019. So we'll see how it goes. But it's interesting to track that stuff. It's interesting and I've had some conversations with Dave. I had a long conversation with Dave at Valhalla where we talked about analytics and all kinds of stuff like that in business and whatnot. It was super interesting. But yeah, once they get that big and they have that many people like on the payroll, they have to track all that stuff very closely, because really the advertising revenue that they get does not pay the bills at all. The majority of the money they make is from the Vault memberships. And now they're starting to do more sponsored content and stuff like that, because they're gonna grow. They're going into this huge new building. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. So yeah, it's interesting once you get to a certain size that you have to track things a lot more and whatnot. I have an accountant, because I just don't know even like I got to pay a whole bunch of state taxes and stuff like that on the stuff that happens at Tabletop Minions Expo. All the stuff that, like the people buying tickets and people buying dice and all that kind of stuff at Tabletop Minions Expo. I have to put, sales tax on all that, and it's a whole thing. And so it's just interesting now to kind of have this sort of side job. I love it, but it is interesting to see where it's kind of gone. And I have no idea where it's going, frankly. I don't have huge plans. I kind of just sort of steer along and see how things kind of go, and make, improvements in certain stuff like that. Like I said, planning on some new types of content this year, but that's kind of where it's at. Anyway, I have rambled again. Sorry. Let me see here. What else have we got here? Useful G says that the Tales of the Tabletop Minions, the first one about texting, has some amazing facial expressions from Uncle Adam. Yeah, well, I Lord knows I do have a face, and I know how to use it. Josh says, I was debating about making a joke product commercial at Adepticon with my Eagle Ordinary friends, but I doubt it'll happen. That's the trick about Adepticon, is it's 4 days, and you think to yourself, wow, that's plenty of time, I'll be able to do so much, but it's astounding at how quickly it goes. So, yeah, you really have to plan. Like, if you want to do, like, that's the thing that was the upside about that video that I did talking to the painters, is I could come across and find a painter and be like, can I talk to you in 30 minutes at this same spot? Or is there something can we get together in 4 hours or whatever? We would just schedule something. I'd go get all my junk, bring it over there, shoot it. It would take 20 minutes, and then you were done. And then you could kind of like hop around. But when you want to sit down and do a production, like something that's a narrative, like a joke commercial or whatever, Yeah, that takes it can take a good deal more, planning ahead of time and all that stuff and scheduling and whatnot. So yeah, that's why that's difficult. I do not envy the people from Don and Gianna from Beasts of War, because they've got to interview so many different, like, marketing people and designers and people who work, spokespeople for different companies and organizations, and they kind of crank through so much stuff during the convention. And I know, because I used to have to do it, that it gets really stressful, and so I don't want to do that with myself for the channel. But I still want to kind of make some content, even though we know that people just don't watch it that much, which is also what tempers it to some degree too. Honestly, for me lately, conventions are becoming a little bit more about meetings. Not a ton, but more than they used to be. I just got an email from the marketing manager at a company recently. He's like, "Hey, I was watching one of your videos, and you said you're going to be at LVO. So can we get together and have a meeting?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's cool." So that's kind of cool. That's the one downside I think that's going to be to not going to Gen Con. And currently, I don't plan on going to Gen Con. If I do go to Gen Con, it will probably be for Game 4 and not for Tabletop Minions. But, yeah, so that's one of the downsides, though, about not going to Gen Con, is that you can get a bunch of meetings taken care of. Like, I had a great meeting with Eddie from the Warhammer community, from GW last year. We went out to lunch, and it was really super helpful. He's a good guy. But, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's going to be at Adepticon, so we can hang out there too if we want to. Because we met at Adepticon the first time, I think, was last year, yeah. Anyway. What else have we got? Any thoughts on the monthly miniature loot boxes like Asset Drop? I've heard about them. I had one of them reach out to me and say, "Hey, do you want to review our stuff or something?" And I said, "No, thanks." I mean, I looked at it and I was like, okay, I mean, I don't get any of those boxes. Like, I don't personally get, any for any different type of thing. So I'm probably just the wrong audience, which means I'm probably not the best guy to review it, because I'll be like, well, this is a bunch of junk that I don't want. You know what I mean? Like some of those loot boxes, like the original loot boxes, you're like, oh, here's a sticker and a t-shirt and some stuff. And you're like, okay, I guess. But for miniatures, you're like, oh, here's a color of paint. Okay. Oh, and here's a brush. It's not a size you want. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like you're getting a bunch of weird random stuff, and then you're like, great. And yeah, it's just not for me. So, I don't know. I don't know if there's a good way to do those loot boxes that would really impress me or get, my... I just noticed if I do this, it makes the table shake, and then the camera gets all wiggly. I apologize. But yeah, so, yeah, I forget what company it was that reached out to me. I don't think it was Asset Drop. It was somebody else that reached out to me last year, and that's just kind of not my area of interest. The new painter said, Mini Wargaming did a neat bat rep / roleplay session combos for This Is Not a Test. Yeah, that was kind of interesting. That was, from what I understand from talking to Dave, that was just Matt got a wild hair and was just like, we should do this. This looks like fun. And so they did. I think it was before they had started getting into sponsorship stuff. But yeah, they did that. And which is weird, because there's not really a roleplay aspect to This Is Not a Test, from what I understand. Whereas there is one for Wreckage, but they just kind of made up their own thing, which was cool. I like seeing that kind of stuff, and I think that, like, those, I watched a couple of those. I don't watch a lot of their bat reps. I watch some once in a while. Like, if there's an army that I want to see, I watch them, but a lot of times I don't watch them regularly, just because I'm not super interested in battle reports. But that being said, I did watch those because I just thought I wanted to see what they were going to do. I wanted to see the cool terrain and all that kind of stuff, and they worked out real well. We're definitely going to do at least a little bit, at least some Wreckage bat reps on the channel eventually, because I'm going to get Matt, at least Matt, if not Matt and Anton, up, especially once we get in the new studio, and we're going to get some work done. It'll be great. VJ Morph says, okay, I don't sub to Beasts of War. I see the Mini Wargaming new Codex reviews a lot, so I do see that as news videos. Yeah, okay, I can see that. Yeah, I mean, again, it's just 40K, but, like, they do the reviews of the new codexes. There's a guy who does bat reps from England, Winters SEO, I think. He does them. And the bat reps that I really like, actually, I don't watch all of them again either, but when I do watch them, I enjoy them. Tabletop Tactics Those are also some guys from the UK. And when they put up some bat reps sometimes on YouTube, I like them because I just think the guys are funny. I'm not, and they're not super competitive, though they do have competitive chops. Like Lawrence, the guy who runs it, it seems like he won a big heat at Warhammer World or something. Like I got an email, like I subscribe to a bunch of different emails or whatever from Games Workshop. I assume I get them all the time. I must have subscribed to them, and they had like a thing, and they're like, oh, here's some new products and stuff, and they're like, oh, and here's like blah blah blah, the big tournament that they had at Warhammer World, big thing, blah blah blah, and then they're like, and here's the guy who won Heat 1, and I'm like, hey, that's Lawrence from Tabletop Wargaming. I recognized him. So yeah, so he knows what he's doing, but they also really have really nicely painted stuff, and they're also funny, and so I kind of like those. Yeah. But they also do the reviews too. They like, I had a talk with Eddie, and I was like, I'm not a competitive player in any way, shape, or form, so there's no use for you to send me the codexes like every month or whatever, because I'm going to be looking at it and like, I like the picture on the front. It's got a cool picture. I'm not the person to do the analysis, and that's not what people come here for. So, like when they release a new game like Necromunda, I was like, hey, you should try to send me some of that, and other stuff like that. Shadespire, obviously, they sent me that a good deal ahead of time, and that was cool. But like if they come out with another, I'm sure sooner or later they're going to come out with another kind of like specialist game or whatever, and I'll probably get a copy of that. But the normal, like, new codexes and stuff like that, generally not so much, because I'm, again, not going to do that kind of video for the most part. Adam, do you think that the spike in subs might be due to older gamers coming back to GW in 8th edition? I know it's what brought me back properly, and I found your stuff great for a miniature gamer. Some degree, yes. I want to say that some of it this summer was because of the launch of 8th edition, so just more people came back into wargaming in general. Also, I had a video about 3D printing. It was my first 3D printing video that sort of blew up. I mean, I'm not talking like, super viral millions of views, but I'm talking about how that video is maybe 5 months old and it's got over 100,000 views already, which is quick for me. Like on any given video, I generally get 10,000 views if it's a good video, I get 10,000 views over the course of the first weekend. If it's a little bit slower, I get 10,000 views over the course of the first week. That video, like I said, it's been 5 months, it's at over 100,000 already. And so I was like, okay, cool. Well, I'll make more videos about, 3D printing. And then they didn't do nearly as well. So I don't know what it was, but it was something. And so that video, maybe it was just like some really really some random shares that really blew up or something, and that's fine. So it was a mixture of 40K 8th edition launch, some of the videos I made about 40K 8th edition launch and stuff like that, and then also that big video, because when you have videos that get tons of views, that helps your overall video ranking for your channel. So other stuff pops up more frequently, and it's just a whole thing. It sort of snowballs to some degree. So I think that's where that hump kind of came from, honestly. The funny thing for me is I'm not planning on going to Gen Con this year either for several reasons, says Jesse Daniel. Yeah, no, I like, it's great. Everyone should try to get to Gen Con if you're a gamer of any kind of sort of tabletop flavor. They should try to make the pilgrimage at some point, but it is a long road. It is, and I'm not just talking because it's far away. It's not that far away. It's in Indianapolis. It's kind of in the middle of the country. It's just like expensive to get in. It's expensive to find housing. It's super expensive to find housing if you want it somewhere near the actual convention. It's a tough one. And then you've got 60,000 people walking around. So it's also, that can be problematic for a lot of folks as well. I'm not super fond of how big the crowd is. So VJ Morph says, are Matt and Dave from Mini Wargaming as nice in person as they seem online? I've only met Matt once. Or did I meet him twice? I definitely met Matt at Gen Con 2014. That's, I think, when I first met both of them, but I don't remember. Dave and I are friends. I like Dave a lot. He's a good guy. I've spent now, a good amount of time with Dave because Dave and I both have been at the last two Valhallas. So, you're there for like a week. And so, he's a great guy. And like I said, we had a long conversation one of the last days of Valhalla this last year, back in October, about a lot of different things like channel-related stuff and just whatever, and just talking business and stuff. And that was great. We talked for, 3 hours or something. And he's a really good guy. I like Dave a lot. And Like I said, I've only met Matt at Gen Con like once, I believe. Usually Dave's the one who kind of travels around a bit more. But he's also he's a nice guy too. But yeah, Dave and I get along quite well. And then Quark, Quark spent the last two Valhallas. This year I met Josh for the first time. He's a super nice guy. The year previous, they didn't bring Josh. They had Rob, who you don't see on camera too much. He seems to be a nice guy too. He and I talked about film quite a bit because he's a little bit more into like editing and filmmaking and stuff. And so we talked about that stuff. Josh is a super nice guy. Yeah. So and Chris. I've known Chris for quite a while. He and I have been me and Chris and Miranda, Mini Wargaming. Wargamer Girl. We used to do a live show about movies that nobody watched on her channel, and so I've known him from that. And then at Adepticon, we've had long conversations the last couple of years. Like, I don't know, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, it was like him, me, Miranda's husband, Tommy, Flo, and a couple other people. Flo was a friend of Miranda's, and we were all sitting around like in the hallway at Adepticon till like 4 a.m, just like talking about stuff and everything. And it was that's one of the great things about conventions in general is the conversations. I know a lot of people say, well, I don't really watch convention coverage because I don't like to go to conventions, but really, like, conventions was where you meet people and you have these long conversations and you make good friends. That's one of the best parts about it. I don't go to conventions to play games. God forbid, small conventions I do to play demos generally, but to go to like Gen Con to play in like the tournaments and stuff like that, I'm not interested. More power to the people who do, but that's not why I go at all. It's definitely to meet people and to talk and to hang out, and so that's a lot of fun. So yeah, Dave, like I said, I've known Dave a lot longer than I've known Matt, but Dave, all those guys are good. I like all those guys. VJ Morph says that Luke's APS. Yeah, I think I've seen some of his videos, maybe. He's got big things in his ears. He's a blonde guy, I think. Luke's APS YouTube channel is currently doing a series of reviews on loot boxes for minis. Oh, that's cool. Useful G says, I think that Beasts did a 2-part on asset drop. Looked dangerous for a hobby hoarder. Well, that's the other thing too, is I don't need more stuff. Sometimes I do, but in general, I don't need more stuff that I didn't like plan on getting. Let's just say that. Yeah, definitely. Kelly says, Adam is better than your paints, Simple Green. I don't know if I like Simple Green. I'm definitely looking forward to trying out this awesome stuff. I'm not going to drink it. It's just covered in stuff telling you don't do that. It says you should dilute it before use. Don't use it in a carpet cleaning machine. Do not use concentrated on glass. Do not use on leather. It's maybe a little bit more dangerous than I had thought, but whatever. It'll be fine. Mario says, not going to Gen Con this year, going to Origins instead. I have not been to Origins in 1,000 years. That's not true. I haven't been to Origins since 1995, which is a long time. But, I haven't been to Origins in a really... to be fair, I think it was the only time I ever went to Origins, actually, was in 1995. We have kicked around the idea of potentially also going to Origins for Game 4 at some point. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It'll be interesting. So far, Game 4, just heads up, I've talked about it on this very show last month, which of course can only be seen by you, the supporters, the Irregulars. And then I talked about it on one of my live shows, just a bit. We have not done any other marketing, any other release. We did just do last Sunday, we did go on a small podcast and talk about it, me and Matt, one of the partners. and we talked on it. It was the Adventure Party podcast, which doesn't get. I mean, it's not huge, but we're at about 1,200 signups worldwide, which is pretty cool for really not telling anybody much about it except for this channel, just sort of during a live show. But yeah, we are just about to launch the ability for stores to be able, basically what right now we've got this list of stores. It's 5,900 stores worldwide. The problem is that the stores can't control their what do you call it, their listing. They can't go in and put in their hours. They can't change their phone number if they need to or whatever. They can't put in descriptions and stuff like that. That was the plan. We needed to get the website back end finished before that, but we wanted to have those list of stores so that at least users that were using the app could go, oh good, there's a store next town over I didn't know about. I can go there and buy dice or whatever. So that was plan that, and now we're in the next plan, and so we're just about to release the ability for stores to be able to take ownership. We have to just quickly verify them, and then we'll give them username and password or whatever, or link up their account, their current Game4 account to it, and then they'll be able to log in to the back end and then start putting in events and put in all their information and all that stuff, and that's going to really start to kind of blow it up. Like right now, when you go to use the event there, or use the app, there's not much there, frankly. There's stuff that people put in, the 1,200 or so people. Some people have put in looking for player requests so that they can put up stuff and maybe find other people in their area. And I've already heard from people who've I put up LFP and somebody's already reached out to me and we're going to get together and play next week. And I'm like, that's exactly what we want. But the actual events, which are basically, for the most part at least, going to be run by stores, have not been able, you just can't put them in because you as a store owner can't access your store listing yet. So we will be changing that probably, the hope is this upcoming week. But with, like I said, some family-related stuff with one of the partners, that's maybe going to slow down a touch. We'll see how it goes. I'd love it to be running before I get to LVO. That's kind of the plan. But we'll see how it goes. We're probably going to do a couple of beta tests with a couple of local stores around here so that when I go to LVO, I can be like, look, this is what it's going to look like when stores are doing it. Here's one local store that we've got set up and we're showing it off. And then right after LVO, we'll probably launch it hard. But still, we haven't really started marketing much. We are starting to reach out a little bit more to some podcasts and YouTube channels, and we want to do interviews, and I'll talk any time of day or night, whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm out there to talk to people about it. That's kind of the plan. But it's going to grow. It's not gangbusters. We don't want it to be gangbusters. We need to start slow and grow slowly. Start small and grow slowly. That's kind of my motto. Yeah, that's where it's at. Just to keep you guys abreast of the whole situation. We're really looking forward to it. We've been getting great feedback. Everything's been working out really, really well. And we really think it's gonna take off. It just takes a bit of time to get there. So yeah. Yes. What else have we got here? Potato Joe says the TMX 2018 will be my first convention. Well, that'll be cool. Looking forward to it. Adam, for marketing Game4, have you considered providing conventions paper advertisement for the swag bags? Potentially. I mean, we may do some stuff like that. Not sure yet. Actually, we've kicked around the idea of talking to Adepticon about doing that and seeing if we can get that in for this year. We're not 100% sure yet, but we might. We had thought it because they still do that, pretty heavily with Adepticon. I don't know about Gen Con, maybe. I mean, the thing with Gen Con is that we might be able to advertise in their program. They have a printed program and people look at the printed program. For for Gen Con. There's not a printed program for Adepticon. Everyone kind of mainly uses their phone, which is great. But yeah, so we'll have to see how that works out. But that's definitely part of the plan, is to kind of start doing more of that marketing. We've got money set aside for that kind of stuff, so that's been a benefit too. Mario asks, question, any tips or advice for a brand new Age of Sigmar player? I did pick up the starter box set. It's a fun game. I would tell you to build and paint the models that you like, and then start playing small, no points games, or maybe if you want to use points, great, but play with somebody else who's not out there just to crush you, like if you wanted to start playing with somebody, if you bought the starter box that's got the 2 sets, paint up some small groups from each set, and then start playing against people, and and kind of go from there. Or maybe both of you learn at the same time, then you're less likely to try to crush each other constantly, and that kind of stuff. And you could you could really kind of go that direction and make it work out. But definitely, yeah, that's probably not the bad way to go, frankly. It is, like I said, it's a really fun game. It's a great starter game to kind of get going. And you can add on to it. If you just use the base rules where it's like 4 pages of rules, you just use that to start playing and get used to it, and then you decide to pick up the General's Handbook, and then you can get a little fancier and go that direction, and yeah, it's cool. I like it. Let me see here. I'm secretly hoping CGL will get me into Origins. Yeah, Catalyst, the guys who make BattleTech and all that. Yes, I was thinking of something else. I'm secretly hoping that CGL will get me into Origins. Fantastic eats around Origins and laid back. Gen Con is great for seeing some friends, but that's it. When I went to Origins back in the day, back in 1995, the only place we ever ate was this weird like mall, like underground food court. That was just, it was like nearby, and I just remember it was kind of underground. It wasn't like it was really weird. The strangest thing, and I think this has changed a good deal, but the strangest thing about Columbus, Ohio, back in '95 when I went, was that most of the buildings downtown were federal buildings. So on Sunday, they were all closed, like really closed. And so the entire downtown was just abandoned on Sunday. Like, there was a Kinko's and it was closed. There was a Wendy's and it was closed because there was nothing going on downtown. Like, I remember we were walking from our hotel to the convention center, and this is in a relatively decent-sized major city in America, and there was just a roving band of skateboarders skateboarding up and down like the main whatever heck street we were on, because there were no cars. Like, nobody went down there back then. I just have this very strong visual memory of just like a group of like kids skateboarding down the middle of the street because there were no cars and everything was closed except for the convention and our hotels. But yeah, I remember the Kinko's was closed. This was back when Kinko's was open 24 hours, and they were like, well, we're not open on Sunday because everybody's gone. And so I've heard that it has changed considerably. So I don't know what kind of cool food there is around there, but at the time, I just remember we ate every meal at this weird underground food court, and that was sort of interesting. I would love to go back and check it out. I haven't been in years. I think there are about 10,000, I think, attendees, or maybe more, maybe 15. I know for a while they were down real low. They were like in the 8s, which was kind of low for how big of a convention they were supposed to be. But I think they've gotten a little bit better, hopefully. So yeah. What else have we got? The people on the Google Play reviews complaining about lack of people in Game 4 have to be a real treat. Yeah. I mean, we answer and respond for the most part. I think last I looked, Thursday maybe, we were, I think, at a 3.9 or so, which is not terrible. It'll get better. It is what it is. It's difficult. Like, I'm sure that like a dating app probably has to do the exact same thing. When a dating app first starts, how do you get people in the dating app? If you're the only person using the dating app, you got nobody to date. You know what I mean? So, but the thing that dating apps don't generally have is also then have a listing of nearly 6,000 stores worldwide, or that kind of stuff. So we've got at least that benefit, I guess. Boop boop badoo. What else have we got here? Action in the background. That was my wife. She was microwaving some lunch and then went that away, and she's upstairs playing probably Civilization 6 on the PC. She's a big fan of the Civ games. Let's see here. My wife won't stay anywhere that doesn't have private rooms. Well, I mean, the rooms are private. The dorm rooms are private upstairs, and they have locks and everything and the whole deal. It's just the bathrooms are that you have to go down the hall for the bathrooms. So there's that. At TMX, I'm talking about. Let me see here. We get something about a laser measurement device. That's interesting. What's the food situation like around TMX? Well, that's a good question. Let me see. So there is, let's see, there's a Chinese restaurant, which is maybe called Jade Dragon. I forget what it's currently called. There's a sandwich place called Herberts and Gerberts, which is a small kind of chain in the Midwest. There's another place called Toppers, which is a pizza place. That's pretty good. It's also kind of a small chain in the Midwest. There's a Papa John's. There's a Subway. There's, let's see, there's a great Thai restaurant called Bangkok Thai. There is another restaurant that's kind of a fancy sit-down place called Mahoney's, which is quite lovely. There's a Big Apple Bagels, which I think is also maybe I want to say that's also a chain. So let's see, there's Mahoney's, Big Apple Bagels, Jimmy John's, Thai Place, Subway, Papa John's, Toppers, Herbert and Gerbert's, Chinese place. And those are just all literally like across the street. I'm trying to think if there's another place that I'm missing. There might be, but I think that's most of them. Then if you kind of travel a little bit more in a couple other directions, there's other stuff. But those are all the places that are like right across the street. So there's plenty of places to eat nearby, definitely. Let's see here. Potato Joe, there was a fantastic sub place across the street. So yeah, and that probably was, oh gosh, the place across the street was probably Herberts and Gerberts. They do have good subs. I like their subs quite a bit. Potbelly, if you want to go to Potbelly, that's you got to go all the way out to the highway. But it's not that. It's not. I wouldn't walk it, but you could easily. It's a good drive. It's not a bad drive. I mean, out there. Just so yeah, if you like Potbelly, which I do. They just opened up recently, which makes me very excited. I don't know. Yeah, there's plenty of other places. Then if you kind of start heading out towards the highway, there's a lot of places out there to eat too. But yeah, like right down in the main, right by the university there, right across the street from the university. Like I said, there's plenty of places. We go to the Thai place a lot. We like the Thai place quite a bit. Herberts and Gerberts is quite good, and Mahoney's, like I said, is a sit-down type place, and is also quite tasty. I like a lot of their food. Their chef is good. I mean, it's not crazy expensive or anything like that. They sell burgers and stuff like that too, but they also have entrees and walnut chicken, and they've got a really good meatloaf and a bunch of other stuff. But they also do burgers and things like that. But it's nice. And decent beers too. Yeah. There's also a Hardee's down the road. That's a good point there, Jesse. Yes. Is there anything else near the Hardee's that I can think of? I don't think so, but there's a Hardee's down there too. Potato Joe says, I like to eat at places I can't get here in Kentucky. Yeah, I would tell you the Thai place, the Chinese place, Mahoney's, those are all one-offs. Herberts and Gerberts is probably something you can't get in Kentucky, but I don't know that for sure. They're definitely a smaller kind of Midwest, maybe Wisconsin-only chain, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But yeah, that's a sub place that's quite tasty. Oh, and Jesse is right. If you get in early, the Saturday farmers market is also quite nice. That's true. Yeah, we do have a farmers market that runs from June, so it'll have just started. It runs from June through October downtown in Oshkosh, and it's great. It's a ton of people. It's not early June. There's probably not going to be a lot of produce, but there's lots of food trucks, so there's that too going on. And that thing runs till like noon or 12:30, I think. So anyway, so if you come with like a significant other and that person is a little bit more interested in, say, farmers market type stuff than they are interested in Warhammer and dice type stuff, then that's also a good draw, for the area. Last year, Michael Strickler, one of the Irregulars, he and his wife drove from Cheyenne, Wyoming to TMX. And so he played a bunch of games and did a bunch of stuff. And then he would leave from time to time. And then he and his wife went and rented jet skis out on the lake. and they went to a seafood restaurant in Fond du Lac, which is probably about a 30-minute drive away. But it's this place that flies in all kinds of seafood all the time and everything like that. And it just made kind of a thing of it, which was cool. And then I think after the convention was done, then they drove to Chicago to see some friends of hers from college or something. And so they, you make a little trip of it. It's not bad. That's kind of fun. Definitely. VJ says, I think we need t-shirt updates from Rick Ramondo. I've got, yeah, I was planning on having the t-shirt store actually firing off sooner, but then I got sick, and so I didn't, because I kind of wanted to launch it last weekend. So I'm going to probably try to work a little bit more this weekend on trying to get, like I said, probably 5 designs, and I want to turn those on soon. But yeah, that's kind of where that's at. We're getting t-shirts for Game 4 at work, and so I was like, well, I could just crank these out through the company that I'm going to be using for my t-shirts, and then we could get them. And then it turns out, because there's a thing that says rush delivery is available, can't figure out how to make it actually work. Because I was like, I should get some. I should have gotten them last week, but I didn't. I should quickly get some t-shirts, and I'll pay the extra to get them to rush, so I could have, Tabletop Minions t-shirts to wear at LVO. As it turns out, no. There's no way to pay extra. They say rush delivery is available, but I can't figure out how to make it work. So, so I'm not going to have any of those shirts to wear at LVO. So that's how it works. So yeah, they're like, oh yeah, you'll get those probably right after you get back from LVO. I'm like, nah, that's not going to work out for me, as it turns out. So I will order some as soon as I get most of them done, and then put them on the store, and we'll go from there. Excuse me. Let me see. What else have we got? Josh McCarthy says, I might try to head to TMX on Friday night. Mario says, are there dates for TMX 2018 yet? Because Origins is in June as well. Yes, the dates for TMX are the 9th and 10th of June 2018. And I'm looking up to see on my phone here when the heck Origins is. Because I guess I didn't look at that. Origins. Just Origins, not the Origins of Christmas. No, skincare. That was bad. I should have typed in conventions or something. Origins convention. There we go. Let's see here. What's the date? June 13th through 17th. So they will not coincide. So spectacular. I was a little concerned about that at first, but when you mentioned it. But yeah, Origins Game Fair 2018 is happening June 13th through the 17th in Columbus, Ohio. And TMX is the 9th and 10th. So you got that going for you. What else have we got? Jet skis rule. That's true. That's true. Wait, we have to have dates for TMX? No, you don't have to bring dates. That would be, my wife would be pissed. No. Yeah, we have, there's a time. Maybe some honey and lemon tea for the cough, mate. That's true. Thank you very much. Actually, I think we're probably about to the end of the show, and I'm got to save my voice for tomorrow's live show, which will be from 9 a.m. Central to 11 a.m. Central, as it normally is. I again apologize for missing last week's show. It would have not been a good idea. The upside is, and I discovered this afterwards, changing it will make it so that, and I have to double check this for Adepticon, but changing it makes it so that it doesn't happen while I'm in Vegas. So that way now the Vegas thing happens in between shows, so that's good. And I think it's doing that also now for Adepticon, because Adepticon, yeah. So the Sunday of Adepticon would have also been a Every Other Sunday show. So now the Every Other Sunday show will be before and after Adepticon. So actually shifting it a week does help me on those two conventions. We'll see about other ones, but it does help me on those two at least. I don't even know when is Gamma anyway. So if we go to Gamma, I don't know when the heck Gamma is. I'll have to look it up. But so I'll have to make sure it doesn't also cause a problem. But we'll see how it goes. It's just that trying to do a live show from someplace else has so far for me never worked. Like I tried to do one at TMX, nah, not so good. I tried to do one from Valhalla, that didn't work. So yeah, I think that trying to do a live show on the road is just not a good idea. So having to slip the weekend a little bit, though it was a bummer, and I apologize again. I think it'll help for the long term, at least for the next couple of conventions, hopefully. So that's good too. Yeah. Jesse says that maybe my wife can do a knitting class at TMX. That's possible. She was working on a very large, a 10-foot long Star Wars scarf, which she has since finished and now wears. Although she has to wrap it around herself, I don't know, like 8 times because she's tiny. But yeah, so that was a lot of fun. Anyway, so she'll probably be. I'm sure she'll probably be knitting something because she's almost always knitting something. So yeah, for those of you that we can see again tomorrow, we'll see you then. And for those of you that can't, maybe watch it later on or whatever. But again, I just want to say thanks to all the irregulars. 2017 was a great year. 2018 is going to be better. And I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing you guys either at Las Vegas Open, Adepticon, TMX, somewhere at some point in some time. So, all right. I'm going to go and probably have something warm to drink and see if I can save my voice for tomorrow, and then we'll see how that goes. All right. I appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.